to another vital aspect of it. What do the Republicans make of Joe Biden's victory? Well, for more on that, I'm joined now from Florida by the Republican strategist Erol Morkoc. Good to see you, Erol, although I'm not sure this is the happiest of days for you. I mean, are you joining the Trump-supporting media outlets and the Republicans that are telling Mr. Trump to concede gracefully? Because surely, I mean, it's the end of the road now, isn't it?
Well, ultimately, the media doesn't decide when this election ends. It's when we finish counting the legal votes. So there's going to be a challenge in Georgia and Pennsylvania. Ultimately, I don't think we'll be able to pull it out because we'll need more. We'll need Nevada and Arizona. It would be a miracle. But there's no real imperative for Donald Trump to be polite or have some sort of prom speech concession. He can simply keep governing the country, and then he can leave, and Joe Biden can take over president. He's not gonna fight the legal outcome. But right now, there's drawing there. So
okay. The presidency now in the United States of America. We know that he ran for the White House twice before in 1988. Apparently, he withdrew from the race after he apparently admitted to taking bits of a speech that was made by the then leader of the British Labour Party, Neil Kinnock. But of course, he also had a sixth term as senator from Delaware and was first elected in 1972. And perhaps more importantly to a lot of people of color in the United States, he opposed a lot of racial issues that were against black people in America, although early in his career he also apparently sided with Southern segregationists in opposing court-ordered school busing to racially integrate public schools. So, I mean, Carla, a mixed record there, if you ask me.
Well, I think one way of putting it is that Joe Biden has evolved. And I say that because you're referring to that controversial, his support of the 1994 crime bill, which led to the criminalization of various offenses, even minimal type offenses that led to record numbers of incarceration of young black men. And that's one reason why black voters, especially black men, were wary of supporting him. In fact, you were asking me this the other night about one of the interesting developments in terms of results of the race was that Donald Trump actually increased his share of the non-white vote in this election, his personal share. I mean, Joe Biden still won overwhelmingly the black vote by almost just shy of 90%, I believe. But nonetheless, Donald Trump was still able to carve into the share of the black male vote. But I think a lot of it also came from Latinos as well.
Right.
So the point is, Joe Biden has a lot of work to do because there's still a wariness about him. However, I think all the different groups, especially progressives in the party, they thought it was more important to band together to remove Donald Trump from office. And now the hard work begins because they expect to see a lot of deliverables in terms of appointments, cabinet appointments, but also to policies that they now want to, see put forward in exchange for their support.
Right. Okay. Stay with us, Carl. Let me try and reconnect with the Republican strategist Erol Morkoc, who was joining us from Florida, to get a sense of what the Republicans are making of Joe Biden's victory. And Erol, I'm told that you can hear me now. Are there any circumstances at all that would lead to Donald Trump conceding to Joe Biden, particularly perhaps after the litigation route has been exhausted?
Yeah, well, concede was one thing. Like, would he show up on Inauguration Day and try to be re-inaugurated? No. Would he go out and again, would he make some sort of big overt gesture? No, he probably wouldn't do that either. So the term concede, do you mean socially concede? Probably not, but technically, of course. Once we've gone through all the litigation, once the recount is finished, and if Joe Biden's still been able to take this, keep in mind though the election was hijacked by the virus. You know, this was an economic miracle that was going into its fourth quarter, and all of a sudden it was all destroyed. The election process became vote at home, vote in mass, vote anywhere, vote often, vote early. There's a lot of lack of faith by at least half of this country in the voter process. Just like the Democrats screamed Russian collusion on the first time around, we actually are more concerned with just the obvious, like literal changes to the election system that invalidates almost all of our leads that we should have had. So ultimately, we'll just see how it plays out. There'll be a lame duck presidency for Mr. Biden should he win, and then we'll take the House in the midterm and probably just impeach him for no reason. So that's part of the way this works now. It's a balkanized American political system.
I'm just wondering, Erol, I mean, you seem like a nice guy. We've had you on the program a number of times. I mean, you make a lot of sense. You come across as a very intelligent man and somebody who is quite measured in the way that you sort of behave. I mean, why does it appear to be so difficult to simply say, yes, this man has won? I mean, you're perfectly entitled to go to court and do the things that you're doing, but to concede in a conciliatory manner. I mean, it's been tradition in America for many years for the person who's lost to make a phone call, concede to the other person graciously. I mean, because obviously, I mean, as we were discussing before you came on, I mean, America is bigger than Donald Trump and his political party, the Republicans, and he has a civic responsibility at the very least, especially when he appears to have lost sort of fair and square.
It depends, right? I mean, I think it's 114 years of tradition of concession speeches. But Donald Trump, unlike all these other people, didn't need this job, so he doesn't exactly need to follow the same convention. He's not a politician. He's only been doing it for 3.5 years. If he chooses to do it his way, it's about as Trumpian as you can get. And nobody's really concerned about, will Donald Trump say a polite thing about Biden? I mean, maybe if he wants to, but whether or not he keeps that tradition alive or going, I don't think that's really what his supporters would want to see. And I don't think we're going to see it. It just isn't the style anymore. We see one party that sent 100,000 kids to go fight in Afghanistan versus our candidate who's had 4,000 people who are going to be out of there by Christmas. We have the first president who didn't start a war in 50 years, the first president who was in the pocket of big pharma and big tech, and also, of course, the military-industrial complex. So we see all of that being lost, and we see that as a real shame. So we certainly will play down to the whistle. We don't really care about a nice, polite speech to Mr. Biden, who certainly made all of his money in politics, unlike our candidate. So.
Right. Well, let me ask you this then, since what appears to be important to Trump supporters like yourself is Mr. Trump's legacy. I mean, given that Mr. Trump appears to have changed the Republican Party's sole mantra of conservatism to a more sort of conservative populism route, if I might call it that, which has incorporated, and you have to give him that, incorporated more middle class and more sort of non-educated people into the Republican Party, which is a far cry from where it was a decade ago. Would you say that Trumpism is here to stay in American sort of politics?
Yeah, I was always saying upon election, even if he unfortunately was to vanish off the face of the earth the next day, the fact that he got elected unlocked a Pandora's box. Ultimately, you look at all those people under Trump's policies who he brought in. 8 of the 10 richest counties vote Democrat these days. We're the party of the working class. We're the party of people who are actually impacted by globalist policies. So, the idea that nationalism didn't have to mean isolationism was something that really resonated with these people. And I think his impact in the Republican Party, he broke the stranglehold that perhaps extreme conservatism had on it. Gay marriage and these types of progressive issues are no longer really on the table as the party looks towards more freedom-based initiatives, including whatever personal rights people want to have. A lot of that's based around Second Amendment, and he'll have a legacy of sort of unleashing a whole new generation of people who see America as something that can be positive, that you can love, and something that you can go out and fight for and sacrifice for. So his mark on the party and the country, I mean, he changed the trajectory of the country irrevocably. 3 Supreme Court justices, hundreds of federal court applications or judge appointments,
Right.
International foreign policy redrawn, Trans-Pacific Partnership pulled out of the American labor, hit. So I mean, it's one of those things where as a historian, I want to be on the right side of history, and that's a lot of why I've supported Donald Trump for 4 years. Because when you look back in 4 years, you look at the pop media, you look at what actually happened and what he did for the people.
Erol, thank you very much indeed. Erol Morkoc, the Republican strategist, talking to me there from Florida. Well, let's remind you of our headlines here on Arise.